This is the Maldives the world recognises, the postcard perfect image of a paradise on earth. An entire nation of islands atop a seemingly endless string of reefs, ringing pristine beaches and aqua blue lagoons. In recent years, the tourists have outnumbered the locals 2 to 1. But the same translucent seas which lured these people were about to wreak unimaginable havoc. It would be beyond anyone's comprehension, even though for years the Maldives had been braced for threats from the sea.
Our medium level of ground over the sea is about 3 to 4 feet. So if the predicted sea level rise takes place, it will pose a very serious threat to our very survival.
But the threatening sea would strike sooner and with more force than anyone could have imagined. Even before the tsunami, these tourists were learning that reality doesn't always match the holiday brochure.
Waves are gonna take us, so please be seated. We're gonna try another reef, a little bit more protected.
They had escaped the European winter for some 5-star treatment at the Four Seasons Resort. Just one of 87 hideaways, each on its own island and private reef.
We're gonna jump here, follow the reef in this direction. The current goes like this, so it should be fine. It's a bit rough, but I think it's gonna be fine.
Tourists generate most of this country's income, but while their dollars are welcome at resorts, they are prohibited from visiting most islands. They spend their holidays splendidly isolated from the conservative, Muslim and alcohol-free life of the real Maldives. Malé, the nation's capital, rises from the Indian Ocean like a ringed fortress. Barely 2 kilometres long and 1 kilometre wide, the residents of the city have long feared they are living on borrowed time. This Great Wall of Malé has been built from pronged concrete barriers called tetrapods, donated by the Japanese at a cost of $60 million.
We have empirical data to show that in the last 10 to 12 years, the tide gauge monitoring that we have across the Maldives shows there is a rising trend. It's now 3 to 4 times higher than what it was for the global sea level about 100 years ago.
Dr. Muhammad Ali is the director of the Maldives Environmental Research Centre. Scientists here warned that Malé's very existence was under threat. Development on reclaimed land had doubled the city's size, but destroyed the reefs, robbing the city of its natural defences.
Now we know that this is a costly mistake, and we have to avoid such mistakes elsewhere in the Maldives.
The sea has been cruel to the Maldives before.
1/3 of the island of Malé was under seawater.
Back in 1987, this monsoonal high tide almost claimed the life of the president himself.
Residents agreed this was the worst such incident in living memory.
I was driving around Malé looking at various sites where damage has been done, and then all of a sudden there was a very high wave which came into Malé, and it dragged the vehicle I was driving. And the people there, they held on to the vehicle, and in fact they saved me. Otherwise, I would have been dragged into the sea.
Would have focused your attention.
It did.
Malé is bursting at the seams. 100,000 people, a third of the country's entire population, are packed in here. The squeeze was reaching crisis point when President Gayoom revealed an extraordinary solution. And this is his vision. Rising out of the sea is the new Malé, Hulhumale, entirely man-made and the highest, driest island in the country. It was to be the foundation of the president's dream of building a new Singapore in the Indian Ocean.
In one island, we are trying to complement all the several, complements of such an island: trade, development, housing, schooling, and government infrastructure, and so forth.
Malé's residents jumped at the opportunity to leave a crowded capital behind for President Gayoom's promised land, a mere 10-minute boat ride away. Usman Ibrahim is one of the lucky few to have drawn a government lot, enabling him to buy a flat on Hulhumale. But a lot of imagination is needed to envisage how this barren vista promises an alluring future.
Eba yusas kurebe wake ki abadu rate mi hikka for ratakavati mirang annar hinnan ham bedigandeng he futma fennan hinnan eka mirang abadi kurang gai ganakan warang duas nagane etanu algon menya warang yusas kurebe mirasa detere.
Even in the weeks before the tsunami, safety was uppermost in Usman's mind.
Wake ki diawar kita me bodu yes numen udoy numen ara numen ara ei mi ma bodang uhang hikka fotima e bodang rakater boduani mali ature mira ma astu mali ature mira rakater maka.
But the president's dream of utopia had a price, one the tourists never saw. After 27 years in power, Gayoom tolerated no challenge to his authority. A thin veneer of electoral process attempted to disguise a system which kept him in power for nearly 3 decades. Last August, demands for democratic reform led to an unprecedented mass protest in Malé. A state of emergency was declared. Hundreds were arrested. When we first visited the Maldives just 2 weeks before the tsunami, the country's opposition was living a shadowy existence.
So we are campaigning for some of the detainee candidates who have sort of stood for parliament this time, and this is one of them. These are Mr. Ibrahim Ismail.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of him in the...
Yeah. Do you want to go in here?
They were allowed to campaign for parliamentary elections, but their candidate was locked up and their every move was watched.
So we will have, at least the government has to show that they are free and fair, or they are trying to be. I think that's the reason. But they have an underlining secret agenda, that's for sure. That is probably why our main candidate, Ibrahim Ismail, was have been charged during the campaign.
Nazim Sattar is a founding member of the banned Maldivian Democratic Party. Nearly every person helping out at this campaign office has a story of arbitrary detention or abuse.
I was stripped and I was kept in the rain.
For how long?
For about 5 or more hours.
And how long were you detained for?
97 days in detention center, and total 102 days.
Were you
And
ever
still-
charged in that time?
No.
These are the candidates.
Amnesty International says scores of prisoners have been abused. President Gayoom said it never happened.
None of them have said anything about any abuse of prisoners.
So any allegations of abuse are false?
No, no allegations of abuse at all.
As we left the campaign office that night, we passed the house of opposition candidate Ibrahim Ismail. A notice on his door declared he was under house arrest and visitors were forbidden. No one could have imagined how dramatically and how soon their lives would change. The tsunami struck the Maldives at about 9 o'clock in the morning on December the 26th. At this Club Med resort, about half an hour's boat ride from Malé, the only warning would be a freakish low tide. Otherwise, these tourists and thousands like them were blissfully unaware. Across Asia and beyond, hundreds of thousands are killed and the lives of millions of survivors are changed forever. For the rest of us, it's a day we'll never forget. 2 weeks later, I returned to the Maldives and the Club Med resort. Remarkably, only about 80 people have been confirmed dead, and only 3 of them are tourists. No one is hurt here at Club Med, but the damage is extensive. A quarter of the nation's resorts are closed due to tsunami damage. The remainder, while largely unscathed, are deserted. But also shut down are the livelihoods of the more than 700 people who live on this neighbouring island, which relies on that resort for 90% of its employment. One-third of the nation's people are directly affected by the tsunami. No one's died on this island, but a quarter of its houses are destroyed. Thousands of refugees from the islands flee to the capital Malé, which escaped remarkably unscathed.
Somebody called me up and said that the sea is coming in, and I looked out and everything was underwater. You know, the whole breakwater, the roads were flooded. Of course, you know, we were sitting on the 8th-story building, and everything around us we could see, you know, was water all over, and things were just being washed away.
I meet again with Dr. Muhammad Ali. He tells of watching transfixed as the sea's assault was beaten back by the capital's frontline defences.
If not for the tetrapods, we would have had a much bigger wave smashing into the island. But it's so ironical, you know, we were hypothesizing about something, and all of a sudden it has hit us, and it didn't take long, and we know the effect.
The tsunami's effect on Malé is not obvious to the eye, but this is a city that's been hit by a wave of change. Facing an unprecedented national disaster, on New Year's Eve, President Gayoom announces that those arrested last August will be set free. I return to the home where parliamentary candidate Ibrahim Ismail has been held under house arrest after enduring 68 days in solitary confinement. Hey, Ibrahim Ismail.
Yes. How are you?
We allowed in now?
Sure. Come on in.
He believes the door forced open by the tsunami cannot be closed again.
All in all, I don't see that things can be reversed now. I think we've passed the point of no return in that sense. Because I think it's in the best interest of the government too.
President Gayoom keeps busy touring affected islands and reassuring the displaced, while asking for more than $1 billion in international assistance. The president's opponents fear his sudden softening is a cynical ploy to silence his critics and attract more aid. But he scoffs at such notions. Even before the tsunami, President Gayoom was promising reform.
We would like to develop this country as a modern, liberal democracy.
And those changes will come?
They will come, certainly they will.
Nature's unimaginable blow has swept away the old political landscape. This is the very same Nazim Sattar that we snuck out of our hotel to meet at night. Now he openly loads aid collected by exiled Maldivian opposition groups into a fishing boat destined for the worst affected islands in the country's south. And he's doing it with help from the soldiers who, weeks earlier, would have willingly thrown him in jail.
The soldiers have been helpful in carrying the aid, and when we have soldiers, it is sometimes easier for the officials to work with us. But at the same time, they are keeping an eye on us, but we don't mind that we say what we want.
After 14 hours at sea, we near our destination, at the other end of the Maldives archipelago. Is it possible, at all possible, that for someone like you who supports change in the Maldives, that this wave could be a good thing, even a good thing in the long run?
I don't know whether the wave was a good thing, but what the changes that may come after it would be positive, I think. Yeah. The wave has destroyed a lot of lives, so that is a sad fact. But what we want in the future is more negotiations with the government and to move forward together. And in that way, it is a positive aspect of the disaster.
The Mercy ship's destination is the vulnerable eastern side of the Tar Atoll. 2,000 people lived on Villafushi before waves swept this community away. Now it is a ghost island. 17 people died here, the highest death toll on a single island in the Maldives.
Here's the cyber cafe. I think in here. And over there, there's the pharmacy. In here, here's the pharmacy. But now there's nothing.
The body of Ali Zumal's grandmother was washed away to another island altogether.
Okay, this is my grandmother. She was died.
A fate Hafiza Suleiman narrowly avoided by clinging to a coconut palm.
Then alugando nikuti badiga fa nikume balala as aluganda ngade ni miruka hanaya. Then alugando bodowi. Then alugando beddi mirukunga. Komme rala ka alugando machangeri. Amungos emme mati alugando ga ingires bo mati ralu de.
The government has committed itself to rebuilding Villafushi, but 9 other affected islands have been abandoned forever. Survivors will be moved to bigger islands, others to temporary shelters for at least a year, while communities are rebuilt. Even President Gayoom's dream of a new Singapore has been dented. Returning to Hulhumale, I meet up again with Usman Ibrahim on his way to work. The water came up to your waist.
Yeah. Eboliga ihusas kolleun parabrang haram vema edo hitaveri edo ekuri interview wes handamvi den edo ho matin hama vara bodang edo birues gang ege ka ralo agota medo.
The vision of a modern Maldivian metropolis has given way to emergency housing. This morning, Hulhumale braces for another wave, a tide of refugees, survivors of devastated Villafushi.
Algon gelen deka algon mitano toti beni. Kama miao. Elen deka. Elon mara setagota. Ama. Uriami meko.
Obviously, the tsunami has changed a lot of things. The immediate concern is really to reorganize our communities which have been very badly hit by the tsunami. But I think in order even to do that, we need a stable political system where there is fairness, there's equality, there's justice. And I think our biggest challenge now is to develop such a system which will facilitate the rest of the things.
Selling this unique environment to the world's tourists has almost doubled the Maldives' wealth in just 10 years. Now, disaster has set it back by 20. But this is a paradise always aware of the threat from the very seas which grant it its beauty. A wariness the Asian tsunami has forced everyone to share, as well as reminding the Maldives' autocratic president that no man is an island, and no nation of islands can be only one man.